employee retention credit, making public health emergencies eligible for major disaster programs, and finally, solving the problems when it comes to masks. There's a certain piece of legislation we can move that would be a piece of it that would give us millions of more masks out there for the health providers that need it. One thing I will say to all of America, we have overcome bigger challenges in this country. Every time we have a disaster and others, it shows the very best of this country working together and coming together and actually making us stronger in the end. I'll make this commitment to everyone. Republicans will not play politics. We're not going to criticize and sit back. We are going to work to make this right. I think our best thing we could do is take a deep breath. Let's work together to make sure whatever bill we can pass right here works to the need best for everyone. We put our ideas forward. We want to work with this speaker. We want to show the leadership that not only this country wants, but this country deserves. This is our moment in time that I believe in history that we come together. Look, I know we will get through this. I know at the end of the day, we will find to do what is right, and I want to make that day starting right now. I think the actions the president took was correct, and I think when you talk to the governors out across this nation, they are showing it's working well with this administration. We need to do the very same right here in the House. Yes?
It sounds like the concerns you're expressing about the bill aren't deal breakers. They are things that can be addressed. The question is, can they be addressed before Congress goes away for a week and change recess? How important is it to get this bill passed before you go away for recess, knowing that if this virus spreads, you might not come back?
I think it's more important that we get it right. I'm not concerned that we go on recess. I think we stay here, we get it right. This is a time and place that you do not want to rush something. I mean, it's not just my words. If you talk to Democrats on the Rules Committee themselves, Earl Perlmutter, this has jurisdictions of many committees. No one got to see it. It's there at 11 o'clock last night. Just as your question raises, I think it's more important we take a moment to step back. Let's work together. There are bright minds. We should be listening to those in the industry. We've got some bright minds down to the administration, here on our committees as well. Let them look at it. Let us get together and put the very best ideas together. And I will promise you that you'll find a very bipartisan vote for that, and not one that slows it up by any means. And I think we can get this done in the next 48 hours.
So you think the House should stay here until you get it?
I think we can get this done in 24 or 48 hours, yes. I think it's critical that we do.
What was the concern besides the biggest concern on your side of the contact with but seeing what's going on in Wall Street, remembering the talk experience in 2008, putting the bill on the floor that they probably could have passed with Democrat vote, but then it has to do with the administration and many Republicans that are sending kind of a message of confidence. Is that part of the calculus besides the policy elements, or was it looking at what's going on in Wall Street and being concerned that there's a bill out there that doesn't seem to likely in the Senate?
This is so different of an economy than it was in TARP. TARP was an economic meltdown. We have one of the strongest economies we've ever had in the last 50 years. That's at a positive place. We have the lowest unemployment. So what you really should be looking at, how do we make sure these people stay employed? Before, you're just trying to get money into people's hand to get a consumption going. This is a stronger position to be in. So one, you want to treat this virus, but more importantly, you want to keep the economics going strong on the same basis. That's why we're in a stronger position to get this right and sit together and not play any political games.
And to clarify, by Republicans beyond what you just mentioned there, are we talking about, are you going to ask for the table to consolidate it to the mentioned last night that was pushed through? Are there economic elements of this
I believe if there are big things that will take more time, let's do what we can do together right now. We can work on those bigger things and come back in the next couple weeks. But I do believe it is critical that we get a small portion of this done right now. I think it helps give confidence. But remember, we are elected policymakers and leaders. This is our moment in time to show that we will rise to the occasion just as every other American believes we should do. There are testing kits out there. There are people who have been tested. Congress doesn't get in any forward in the front of the line as we talked to the doctor today. I was just talking to one American company out there that is just on the verge of being able to have the test ready in the next short time. They're making sure that it's done correctly. But you could have a test back in 8 minutes. So, I mean, this is the ingenuity of this country. It's not just government's going to be able to solve it. We have such bright minds in the private sector as well. We want to harness that. We want to create the synergy. And that's what's going to get us to the point where we're going to have a vaccine for this. Just as Ebola, which was much more deadly, we were able to contain that back into Africa. We now have a vaccine for it in others. Unfortunately, when you look to Italy and to these other countries, they did not have the leadership that took the action that this president took by stopping the planes from China coming here. Yes.
What have you suggested to your members, and how has it changed the campaign strategy in terms of gathering as it differed where as far as campaigns?
Well, the first thing I would say is this is not a time to be sitting thinking about campaign events. This is a time that this crisis is about America, and this is what we should focus on. Put campaigns all aside. This is not, there's time and place for that later. Let's solve this problem. You're elected to be a policymaker, and let's work through that. I just got off the phone with our members on a conference call. We had Dr. Monahan on it. We had Rodney Davis from the House Administration. We had Larry Kudlow. We're answering numerous questions, but the one thing I wanted to take away from all of our members, that we will work with the Speaker, we'll work with the administration, and we will make sure that we get this bill right. Yes. Yeah. Well, the reason why I did a conference call, because we had a number of things change, and this is not our normal time for a conference. We had on another day. I thought the participation would be bigger. I also would have other people that I wanted to participate on because they were someplace else instead of traveling into the Capitol.
That wasn't helpful.
Well, it's a combination. No, I thought the participation would be better. It's also from a standpoint, it does also help with health that you don't have as big a group together, but for participation, it allowed everybody to be there. Yes.
There's a big expansion of Medicaid in this bill. Are there other things that are already talked about?
Well, the one thing I would sit back and look, and you're talking about the FMAP and the expansions there. There's no scoring. There's no committee looking at that. And these are such big items. I just do not believe it would be smart on our part to rush that through, that you got it at 11 p.m. last night. You're voting on it at 11 a.m. this morning. Without any score, without any work through, where's the sunsets and others. I'd rather have the minds and the expertise that we have on both sides of the aisle here, especially with the number of committees that have worked on this, to be able to see that and at least have input. Yes.
What are the items that we're hearing from you? You go to the web,
Well, there's a number of things Congress have already done, and this is the one thing I want to make sure the American public knows. Just in the last 5 years, we have increased funding almost at 40% when it comes to the National Institute of Health and the Centers for Disease and Control, CDC and NIH. Those are the individuals who are actually helping lead in this process. So you had a 40% increase. Just in 2019, under this administration and our majority, we created the Infectious Disease Rapid Response Fund. So they could actually go after dealing with this at the very beginning. And then we had the national stockpile. So we have been preparing for a situation such as itself. Unfortunately, that when this first came to the fruition, that President Xi did not allow us in there. If our scientists, our doctors were able to be in China from the very beginning, we'd have more knowledge, and we would have probably really helped save the world, that the containment could have been just within their country. Right now, it's a different situation. So we will do everything on our part, working with the private sector, making sure that we have the facilities that we need. The other thing, too, is from a responsibility from all Americans, not to panic, but don't hoard it as well. Let's make it sure those who need it, just like when it comes to a mask situation, you watched a run on masks. Here we have 3M that builds 2 different masks. One's an industrial and one's a surgical. The industrial one can work for medical providers. But because of our own regulations, they would be sued if they sold it to them. But those are millions of masks. We can simply change that provision, and that's one of the provisions we're looking at, and those would be millions of more masks today to be able to go forward to be sold. Yes?
A follow-up on those masks, though, we were told that they're for people who are sick, so they stop spreading these diseases. Why do millions of masks need to go to healthcare providers? I assume to keep.
Well, it's a combination of both. I mean, if you're a medical provider on the front line that is dealing with somebody that is sick, right there in testing, you need a mask on as long with the person who is sick. That's why you want to make sure, too, that you have both. Yes?
Last question. You expect a disaster declaration today. Kudlow told you guys on the call. Is that something you're supportive of and everything like that?
Look, I think the actions this administration has taken, I know some people criticize this president early for taking the action of not having China to come forward. He did talk about other items that he will take. I think those are appropriate, smart, and helping to keep this country safe.
Do you anticipate that today, though?
I'd leave that up to the administration when they go. Yes, ma'am.
Capitol tours are already canceled. What is the likelihood that Congress extends its week-long recess next week?
You know, we monitor this day by day. I think from one situation, that's exactly how we should approach it. We want to make sure the policymakers are here to take what action is needed. We need to lead in this situation. We need to work together. And remember, we have overcome so much in this country. But more importantly, this country has led in overcoming any of the problems around the world. And we will do the same with this. This is not a time to panic by any means. I'm looking what's happening in the private sector and with government. At the end of the day, we will get a vaccine. We're testing right now for the best treatments and therapies. We're taking the actions and the precautions ahead of time to make sure this does not spread as rapidly as we've watched in Italy and others. And whatever we see in front of us, we will overcome and we will solve it.
Can I
Thank you very
clarify one
much.
point here? Did you have members of the administration from the economic, not the health side, but so much to talk to the members this morning about saying, okay, this is what we need to pass this bill from the administration? Because obviously they had concerns. They said they didn't like it in its current form. What did the administration, or have you spoken with the administration? What did they tell you?
Look, we have been talking to the administration throughout with Secretary Mnuchin, with Larry Kudlow. We had Larry Kudlow scheduled to come on a whole different topic earlier from today, and we modified what the conference was about today. But Larry Kudlow talked about the current measurements within the economy, how strong we are. Prior to this virus, our economy was even growing bigger, and we want to make sure we have that. Remember, this is so different than the economic meltdown. We're walking into a virus when we're economically strong. So how do we make sure we take the treatment, we prevent it, and keep the economy growing? And that is our goal, that is our mission, and that is what we'll achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.